Birds of Prey was the most recent DCEU film and seems to have already been forgotten by general audiences, which is a shame because I really enjoyed that movie, despite all the bad I'm probably going to talk about it in this video. First of all, that title, that is a ballsy move. Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. I don't even know what emancipation means. And sure, they did the title like that to shoehorn in Harley's name, one, because she's proven her marketability, and two, because this is her movie. The actual team, Birds of Prey, almost seemed like an afterthought in this movie, and that's one of the worst things that just ended up happening. So I'd like to start my review by talking about each member of the Birds of Prey, and then the other characters individually, beginning with Renee Montoya. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but I've been reading a lot of comic books featuring Renee Montoya recently, and this version of her is fine. My biggest complaint is that they had a missed opportunity with her alcoholism. It just really felt like they were going somewhere with that. Unfortunately, they didn't. They could have had a very human character arc with her. Moving on from Montoya, this version of Canary is probably my least favorite bird. She just feels added in for the sake of it. She has the least compelling motivation between all the lead characters. Everyone else feels like they belong there except for her. I know she helps advance the plot once or twice, but there's definitely more ways the movie could have handled that. Not to mention the infamous Canary Cry. It was very out of place. Of course, I knew about her powers, but if you didn't and this was your first time, being introduced to the character, seeing her use a sonic scream exactly once definitely broke your immersion. And now, finally, for my favorite bird and favorite character overall, hUnTrEsS. I love everything about this hUnTrEsS. She's played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, which was an interesting choice that 100% paid off. Winstead also plays Ramona Flowers from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, so that's why she may come off as vaguely familiar to any of you. hUnTrEsS's quest for vengeance is one of the most compelling subplots, and it works well because she has personal stakes in the matter instead of just showing up and punching people like a bunch of the other birds. And to add on to that, her origin is one of the most terribly interesting parts of the movie and gives her character an overall Batman vibe for a minute. But in reality, she's far from Batman. And sure, she's got her own killing on lock, but when it comes to intimidation, she needs some practice. Which gives us one of the most human and realistic scenes in the movie.
I am. Do you know who I am? They call me. They call me.
They call me hUnTrEsS.
Seeing her practice her lines and her vigilante voice is almost a perfect scene, showing that just because she's a great assassin doesn't make her perfect at her job. I just wish this whole movie was about her, honestly, but at least now that she's been introduced to main general audiences, hopefully we'll see more of her soon. Also, side note here, she wins the coolest kill of this movie.
What? You are so cool.
And I would hate myself if I didn't at least touch upon the main villain of this movie, Ben Kenobi.
Hello there.
Ewan McGregor plays the Black Mask in this movie, and I freaking love it. I've heard people complain that McGregor overacts in this role, and I always say the same thing. He is playing a crime boss who walks around in a BDSM mask and cuts people's faces off. Of course he's going to overact. It's part of the charm. He's controlling, intense, dominating, and just so much fun. He steals the show whenever he's on screen. Roman is phenomenal and one of the freshest DC villains we've gotten in years. Hands down. Which brings me to the last character I wanted to talk about. Harley frickin' Quinn. I feel like Margot Robbie and the writers have really improved on Harley Quinn's character since Suicide Squad. They leaned into what people liked while leaving out what people didn't. So we ended up with a lot less awkward lines like this.
What the hell's wrong with you people?
We're bad guys. It's what we do.
I feel like I've definitely talked about characters for long enough, so let's go over the general style of the film next. Birds of Prey began with a fun animated prelude of the actual movie. It was great and to my delight confused my mom about the rating once cartoon Harley started dropping F-bombs. The actual movie was told in a non-linear fashion, well because Harley Quinn's insane, which I enjoyed. Sure, it's reminiscent of Deadpool, and this whole film is reminiscent of Deadpool, but that's not a bad thing. I've explained how this movie improves on Suicide Squad before, but one more thing it does better with is the character cards. They felt very out of place in Suicide Squad, but they feel a bit more at home in this film, seeing as it's completely from Harley's perspective. And well, again, she's crazy. BOP has a very distinct style, and I love that about it. But one of the few things I didn't like was the diamonds are a girl's best friend scene. I understand what they were doing, but out of all the fourth wall breaks and fancy name tags, this was the scene that broke my immersion. Which is a shame because the world I was immersed in was spectacular and bizarre and I loved it. Overall, Birds of Prey. I honestly give this film an 8 out of 10. It can be silly at times, and sure, there are sandwich jokes that run on for way too long, but it was a blast. I definitely recommend this for a fun, casual popcorn night. Okay, I need a hUnTrEsS spinoff. I'm not simping, but DC, please.